there's a game between the Packers and the Panthers, a one-loss team and an undefeated team, yet it shows you the importance of this rivalry where NBC has decided that this is the game they're going to stick with. And right now, to join us to talk more about it, the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, as he's here, as I see a gentleman walking through the casino with a Dez Bryant jersey on, and he joins us now on 97.3 ESPN. Welcome, Brad. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks.
Here in Atlantic City, there are Cowboy fans walking around, believe it or not, and they're standing here in front of us as we talk to you. Obviously, a 3-4 Eagle team, a 2-5 Cowboy team, and yet it gets primetime billing. I guess it shows the importance of what this rivalry means to this league and to both these teams.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. Now, it's not Week 11 yet, so flexing doesn't start, and so this would be a judgment that was made before the season. I think if they had known in February when they were cobbling the schedule together that Carolina was going to be unbeaten, and Green Bay's Green Bay, and then I think that might have been a highly considered game. But look, most of these NFC East games are proven ratings getters, and Dallas and the Giants, Dallas and the Eagles, the Giants and the Eagles. Washington's been down for a couple of years, so I don't know if they're quite the ratings pull in the eyes of network people that they are when they're a little bit better. But the rest of them are all good draws, and especially the Eastern Seaboard cities are high population centers, and the Cowboys, for whether you love them or hate them, bring eyes. So it's not surprising that it'd be a primetime game.
Yeah, actually, I remember when they did the flex. I thought last year they put a rule in that said after Week 5 they can start flexing games. I could be wrong about that, but I thought
you might be right. I thought it was starting Week 11.
Yeah, no, it says Sunday night games can be flexed starting in week number 5. So there was some discussion.
I know that they just put out a notice about they're flexing Week 11.
Okay.
And that's the first one that's being flexed. Maybe that's why I thought that.
Okay, yeah, well, regardless, I mean, this is a game that I think somebody tweeted out today, Brad, 17 straight years, I think, or 17 straight years that the Philly and Dallas game has been a primetime game in some capacity. But this one's a little different because both of these teams are in a division, as you said, that is has been a problem. What did you see last week in Dallas? They made the change at quarterback. They obviously struggled again. But are you seeing anything that makes the Dallas fans and team look like they're taking steps in the right direction, at least on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, yeah, what I saw was the reason that starting quarterbacks make the money they do. I mean, the Cowboys missed their quarterback. And there is not a team in the league that is the same with its backup quarterback. Pittsburgh won a couple of games with Vic, and of course he's been a starter in the league. The Colts won one with Hasselbeck. Most backup quarterbacks struggle to win when they have to play on an extended basis. But the answer to your question, other than, at least in my opinion, Mike, other than it's clear how much they miss Romo, is they are actually. They're doing some really good things. They've lost 5 in a row. The one to the Patriots, they weren't really in, and I don't know how many people are going to beat the Patriots this year. The thing that's so frustrating for them is that if they had their players, they have a reason to believe that they could be 5-1. And by the same token, they've got to start winning some games, or it's not going to matter when Romo comes back. Their defense is not playing as well as it played last year. And last year it was a total shock. But the expectations were higher, and there are aspects of it that are not playing as well. And that's magnified when you're really struggling to score points, and they are.
Brad, the off-the-field stuff we know with Greg Hardy, but what has he meant for that defense on the field? Obviously 3 sacks, so the pass rush has been there. But on a more consistent basis, has he added a lot to that defensive line?
Yeah, he's added a lot, and we're only talking about football now. But his teammates love him being their teammate, And again, we're just talking about football, but they love what he brings. They love the intensity that he brings to practice. He's really a good player. It's too bad that he has some of the other issues that he appears to have, because he's really a good player. He elevates everybody's work rate. He's got a unique skill set. He gives you a pass rush ability that's something every team in the league is looking for. He causes offenses to look at him differently, which means that other defensive players can perform differently. So from a strictly football standpoint, he's absolutely been worth it.
I know Jerry Jones, the GM, maybe not Jerry Jones, the owner, said there's no reason to think that Tony Romo would not be ready. Brad, are you noticing, because we just went through the same injury with Nick Foles here last year, and we kept seeing him throw the ball on the sideline, and it never came. He just couldn't get out there even though he could throw. What do you feel, and what do you get in the sense from Tony, who's a little older than Nick and has had this injury twice? Is the feeling that Tony wants to get out there in Week 11 when he's available?
Right today, the answer to that would be yes, but the proof will be in the pudding of the next 2 weeks. I think that today he may be starting to throw a little bit, and they've got a plan for kind of bringing him along and seeing what he can handle today and how much more. Just this week, he's not going to do anything but throw on the side. And I think what they've said is that their intention is to see when he might be able to handle, for instance, 7-on-7 scout team. Can he handle that next week? And if he can do that, and if he can do a little bit more each day, then the 22nd is the first game he's eligible to play again. And there's 19 days between now and then. If he continues to progress physically, then my guess is they would get him back in as soon as he felt physically able. But it's really too early to say that yet.
Well, injuries as a whole, Brad, have been, the narrative for the Cowboys. Dez was back last week. The numbers weren't there. How did he look physically? Because Jones' fracture, you would think, he came back very, very early from that type of injury.
He did. They employed some. Hey, look, I don't want to pass myself off as being a medical expert, or like I really know what the hell I'm talking about with this. But I do know that they researched and employed some unusual methods, some stem cell treatments, and some other things that maybe everybody who's had a Jones fracture has not done. And no two fractures are exactly alike. No two bodies heal exactly the same way. And even had he been 100%, which is not reasonable to assume for a guy who's missed, 7 weeks, 6 weeks? Even if that was the case, you're going to have some football rust, and he played that game with a quarterback with whom he had never played a game before. So they tried to get him involved early. I think there were a couple of balls that under some circumstances, if he's playing every week, he's going to be able to catch. It's going to take a couple of weeks for him to be back in a full football flow. The fact that he's out there well enough to be out there, they're never going to put a player on the field who's not well enough to play. Playing and playing at the high rate that a Pro Bowl player is accustomed to playing at are two different things. But the more he's out there, the more options they give him, and someone's got to pay attention to him on defense. So that's a good thing as long as he's physically healthy, which he appears to be.
Brad Sham's with us, the voice of the Cowboys, 97.3 ESPN. It is Dallas week, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Brandon Weeden seemed like he was struggling, bad decisions. Castle seems like he's struggling to throw the ball down the field. I know one of those guys has got to go. Does, in your opinion, one of those guys give this team a better shot? Should they have just stuck with Weeden? Now that Dez is back, is Weeden a better match for Dez Bryant? What do you read into the current quarterback situation?
This is why I think they made the change. They've each got some attributes That's why Weeden was a first-round pick, and that's why Castle's been in the league 11 or 12 years. They both have some limitations. That's why they're both backup quarterbacks. The biggest thing to me was when they looked at what the offense did in the 2 games that Weeden started. They knew that there was a premium on winning as quickly as they could because you want to try to get some wins stacked up by the time Romo gets back so you're still in the hunt. What you have in Castle is a guy who has literally 3 times the experience. You're talking about a guy who has started 3 times as many games, played 3 times as many games, been in the league 4 times as long, I think. So with quarterbacks, when you're in the NFL, most of them, if they're in the NFL, physically they can make the throws. They're good enough athletes, and they've all got decent arms. Some guy might throw one route better than another route, but they're all physically pretty good. The question about whether you're going to succeed or not is the decisions that you make and what happens after you get the ball in your hands. So here they are in a position where we've got to try to win some games as fast as we can until our guy gets back. And you have a choice between one guy who has been in the league 3 years and one guy who started 3 times as many games. They're not physically identical. They're not that different. So I think that's the reason that they made the change. And it's the reason why I'm pretty sure that, I know Castle will play this week. I really have a hard time thinking that they would go back to Weeden if they expect Romo to be back on the 22nd. Then it doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do the quarterbacks. It doesn't do the linemen. It doesn't do the receivers. It doesn't do anybody any good to yo-yo. So Parcells said when he went to Romo, 10, 12 years ago, and he hesitated pulling the trigger on taking Drew Bledsoe out and putting Romo in. And he said, the reason that I waited is I knew that once I went, I couldn't go back. So I had to be sure. I think a little bit of that applies here.
Real quick, obviously the Cowboys made a decision today on Joseph Randle. Was this a surprising decision that this came down, or was this just a matter of time before something was going to happen with him? And obviously the running game has picked up with McFadden. Randle didn't produce, I guess, as much as they had hoped, but was this a surprise today?
It was a mild surprise, but he's got a bunch of issues right now, and I think that they picked a day when coaches don't have media access, so it's a pretty smart day to do it that way. None of the players who will be in there will know anything about it or want to say. It was a mild surprise maybe for the timing, but at the end of the year it was going to be hard for me to see how he was going to be staying here because of the variety of issues that he's got.
And Brad, anytime you talk about Eagles-Cowboys this year, obviously DeMarco Murray is going to be a big storyline coming off the 1,800-yard season. Things haven't worked out that well in Philadelphia, but then again, the running game hasn't been nearly as effective in Dallas. Yet that offensive line, specifically I look at Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, they're still playing at a high level. So has it been an issue with the backs more than the line?
I think that's not an easy question to answer. The line overall is simultaneously not playing quite as well as it did at its peak last year and not playing badly at all. They've been in and out at left guard. Leary got hurt, and nobody talked about him very much last year because they had 3 guys in the Pro Bowl. And those 3 guys are still playing pretty well. And Leary was really, really, really solid. He had a really good year. He got hurt this year in the opener, so he didn't play against the Eagles, if memory serves. And Collins is there, and he's coming on now, but that's taken a little bit of time to adjust. And so that's been part of the problem, and the backs are different. And but not having – look, when you take this league with the salary cap, it's not built for teams to thrive when you take out your quarterback, then you take out your Pro Bowl receiver, and then in week 4, I guess it was, you take out your next most dynamic playmaker. That would be Dunbar. And for the year, this league is not built for teams to thrive when they lose that many people. And to me, it's just not as simple as, is it the back or the line? It all works together. If you could guarantee that you were going to get the 2014 DeMarco Murray, then, yeah, I would say absolutely, that's the guy. But I'm not sure that DeMarco's as good a fit for that scheme as he thought he was. And I know he's not going to be as unproductive for the year as he was the first couple of weeks. He's a really good player. But you still got to have the right scheme, and you still got to have the quarterback and the receivers. It's all got to work together. And, would they like to have him back? Sure, they'd like to have him back.
Brad Sham is our guest, the voice of the Cowboys, 97.3 ESPN. By the way, Merrill and Mike will have the call on Sunday night here on 97.3 ESPN for Eagles and Cowboys. Brad, in the first meeting, what was something that you could take from that game that you would see in this game that would give one of these teams an advantage that they can build on? Because it was an ugly first game.
Yeah, it was. It was. The thing about division games, though, Mike, is that teams know each other so well that you kind of just tend to throw out, I think, the form chart. And for the Cowboys, even though Weeden finished the game, they had Romo to start with. So at this point, I'd be ill-equipped to tell you what they're going to get from the starting quarterback. I thought Castle did some good things against the Giants and obviously some really bad ones. I think he didn't play as well last week as he did the week before. The Eagles, I haven't watched the Carolina game yet, but I'm just getting ready to. But they've had ups and downs. Clearly, they haven't done as well as they've wanted to do, but they've had some really good moments. And I think they're dangerous. The Eagles always scare me. The pace they play at really taxes your defense. I think the quarterback's a good player. I know the running back's a good player. They got some really I love Selleck. And defensively, they really fly to the ball, and they've got a couple of guys over there who are intimidating players. And when you throw the division aspect into it, and the fact that now, at this stage, I don't know that anything's must win, but it's pretty close. I mean, the Cowboys can't really afford to lose more than 1 or 2 more games, and the Eagles, I'm sure, feel the same way because the Giants are lurking right there. And that little edge of desperation, that throws another element into it. So I think both fan bases and teams have reason for optimism, and because they've won 1 or 2 more, the Eagles probably have a little bit more reason for optimism. But I expect it to be a very good competitive game.
And, Brad, that mentality to me is the most interesting thing because the Dallas Cowboys were, to me, the clear front runner in this division, at least if they were healthy. What's the mentality in that locker room? Is it just hold on till Tony gets back? Dez is back. We're still the best team?
It is. The mentality is still good. It's a little bit less, I think, hold on until they get back. The coaching staff does a pretty good job of stressing that your task is not week 12. Your task is week whatever we're in now, 8 or 9. You got to be good this week. You got to be good today. So they can't worry about what they're going to be like when Romo comes back, because Romo's not coming back this week. And they can see how Dez is doing during the week, and if he looks a little stronger, see if they can find other ways to incorporate him into the game plan. But they can't worry about Romo because Romo's not going to be here. So their mentality is strong. They see how close they've been in these games that they've lost. They know they still have a chance. They know that chance is kind of starting to slip away. But they're still pretty strong mentally and emotionally.
He's Brad Sham, everybody, and of course the Eagles and the Cowboys will renew their rivalry on Sunday night, where everybody seems alive, as you said. a loss doesn't really knock you out, but boy, it would be 6 in a row for Dallas, and obviously not a good way.
In this league, Mike, sooner or later you got to win some games. I mean, you can say all you want, and you can be as close as you want and everything else, but sooner or later you got to win some games, and I think that's where they are.
No doubt, and it's always a pleasure to catch up with you, and obviously should be fun Sunday night down in Big D, where, by the way, Mark Sanchez went down there last year and played really well and won a game on Thanksgiving Day, but it will be Sam Bradford. Brad, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
You got it. He's the voice of the Cowboys. I thought he brought up a lot of interesting points.